comes together. Liberty involves foreign policy, it involves personal liberty, but it also involves economic policies. Today, the economic issue is jobs. Why don't we have jobs? And what are we going to do about it? What is the president going to do? How do you create jobs? What are you going to do the first day to bring back jobs? This sort of thing. But I tell you, you cannot solve the problems of a weak economy unless you understand how the economy got into this mess. And it is not complicated. It has been well understood by Austrian free market economists. And let me tell you, because I'm sure a lot of you understand it, it is related to the abusive monetary system we have and the Federal Reserve system. Reasons why we should end the Fed. I happen to have written a little book about that. But the most important reason is probably the one that people think about the least. The reason the Fed is so bad, it is the facilitator. And I told Bernanke this last year, you're nothing but a facilitator. What they do is politicians in Washington like to spend money because that's how they get reelected. Republicans want to vote this kind of spending, Democrats on the other side. But, you know, taxes are limited. You can't tax endlessly. You can't borrow endlessly, or interest rates are up. But you go to the Fed picks up the pieces. So therefore, wars are financed by inflated money, and also the welfare entitlement system is financed that way. But the whole thing is it works for a while, and it seems like you know, it's a perfect system. It's sort of like, oh, wasn't this housing bubble perfect? You buy a house for $100,000, goes up to $150,000. I borrow some more money. It's a perpetual cash cow. Yeah. Until you realize there's a bubble there and the bubble bursts. So all these wonderful programs to make sure everybody had a house was designed to make sure that people were able to borrow the money. But who made the money? You know, everybody in the industry, the borrowing, the builders, the people who ran the mortgage companies, the derivatives market, billions, if not trillions of dollars. So the bubble bursts, and who gets bailed out? It's those people. So I am yet to hear why some of these liberals who believe that giving everybody a house is the answer, when the middle class are the ones that lost the jobs, and they lost the house. So it's a complete failure of the system, and you cannot do it that way. Most economists today understand that wage and price controls are very bad. It disturbs the market, and nobody's advocating that. And yet almost everybody in Washington still accepts the idea, except for the Federal Reserve. They can fix the money supply, they can fix interest rates, and that's 1/2 of every transaction. And then they wonder why we get into these problems. But the Federal Reserve is the system that takes care of their friends. They take care of foreign banks a long time before they take care of the middle class people here. So the one way I look at everything that you do, I mentioned that you have a right to your life, liberty, and you should be able to keep the fruits of your labor. But you ought to be able to spend that money any way you want. And you know, I don't think the government should tell you whether or not you can drink raw milk or not. I'm sure liberal on that. People do that. So it is so easy to come up with the answer if you understand liberty. You have 3 choices. You can't hurt people. You live up to your promises. You have sound money. You have property rights. You can't defraud people. Those are very strict rules. They claim that if we're not for the SEC and all these other regulations written by the very people who are being regulated, that then we wouldn't have any regulations. But the free market has a lot of very serious regulations that we would have to abide by. You just can't defraud and steal from people. The regulators, if you for a lot of people still say, well, we have to have some regulations, so look at what the companies will do to you. So they'll say, well, all right, we need regulations on vitamins and nutritional products. You might take something that's not good for you. So guess who the regulators? The lobbyists are from the drug companies, and they lobby and pass the laws. So the wonderful part about a free society, it brings people together. It is not divisive. If you can accept the idea that other people might live, practice, believe in different things, and everybody agrees that I'm not going to hurt you, you don't hurt me. And that would go a long way. That's one thing that's very exciting. Even in politics, people say, even in a crowd like this, we might have a few Democrats in here for all we know. But people will come together because the message is universal. The message is freedom. Freedom in the market. Freedom for the individual. The freer a country has been throughout history, the richer it has been. Those who say that, oh no, if you don't have the entitlement system and you don't have the safety nets, there will be people suffering and have nothing. But the whole thing is history shows that the freer we are, the more wealth there will be and the better distribution. And the other system actually diminishes the amount of wealth there is, and then the allocator, the government, allocates the wealth, and guess what? That's all politics. And that's where we are today. The wealth is shrinking, and those who are allocating the resources are trying to allocate and distribute resources that they literally don't have. So what we need in this country is we need real jobs. We need an environment where jobs will come back here. We need a strong currency. We need to take taxes off foreign deposits so people will come in here and invest. But as long as there's tremendous regulations and tremendous taxation, we are not going to be competitive. And we have suffered, although in the short run we have benefited by being the issuer of the reserve currency. We've been able to print money. The world has accepted it. They still do to a large degree. But if we get to issue the reserve currency of the world and the world takes it, well, why should we work? We'll just spend our money overseas. You know what the problem is? The accumulation of debt. $3 trillion we owe foreigners right now. We're at the end of the road. The debt has to be dealt with. The debt has to be liquidated. Malinvestment has to be removed from the economy. We need to restore a free, healthy economy. And the good news is, if we did all the right things rather quickly, it would take us about a year, to get back on our feet. But most people in government say, well, okay, yes, we've been doing all these things wrong, and now I come to you, and the solution is you're going to have to sacrifice. Now, if you accept my premise and my desire to promote a free society, what are you sacrificing if you get your right to your life and your liberty? If you have a right to keep what you earn and you get the government out of your life and out of your wallet, that's no sacrifice. Most of history has been dealt with by tyrants, and even most of the world today. And we've moved in that direction. Our government is becoming more tyrannical all the time. But there's been too many dictators and tyrants and pharaohs and kings, and yet we had a taste of this. not in the last few years, but the country's had a taste of this. Far from perfect. It was never a perfect system, but it was the freest and the most prosperous. But I would believe for 100 years, though, now that we have lost a lot of that. So we once again have to believe in ourselves and understand how important this is. And I think that should be our goal. We need the confidence once more that we can assume these responsibilities, but this is where I'm getting very much encouraged. In this campaign and what's happening in the country, the campuses are alive. The people who are tired paying for it are ready for a change, but I'll tell you what, the people who think they keep getting it are very worried because they know the treasury is bare and they have to look at something else. This is why I think things have changed so much in these last 4 years. The country has changed. I don't know if you noticed, but my message hasn't changed. The country has changed, the economy is a wreck, they're tired of the wars, they're tired of our foreign policy, they're tired of the government meddling in our lives. The country is ripe for, you know what, a true revolution of the spirit. There's every reason to be optimistic but not complacent, because we do know that there will be a lot of angry people. People ask me, and even Jon Stewart asked me today, why do you think they ignore you? And I said, well, 2 reasons. One is some people who are in charge, they don't want to hear our message because we expose it. Then there are others who don't understand it. They don't understand the benefits. They don't understand how the market works, so they don't really care that much. But the country is changing. It's changing for the better. It will not be easy. Every single one of us have a role to play. I get asked every day, people come up, what should I do? What should I do? Well, you do what you want to do. That's what you're supposed to do. I think the most important thing is to understand the issue, understand the Federal Reserve, understand how to answer the question, do you mean you don't like our troops and you won't send them overseas, and have answers for that. So that means education, spreading the word, talking to people, working in campaigns, that's very helpful. And when you're able to, send the money to the campaign, because you can't compete against these guys that have $60, $80 million. Obama thinks he's going to spend $1 billion. But I tell you what. When truth prevails, you don't need $1 billion. You need a lot. The bar is open till midnight. Thank all y'all for being here tonight.